What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Action After. This week, we're sitting down, we're talking about Pat Quinn's Action After item, which was to get clear on your 3 stories. Now, as we look at this week's Action After item, what we're going to do is we're going to look at 3 separate Action After items for you. We're going to look at your 3 separate stories, and we're going to start to pick apart each of your stories so that you can look at them, decide if you like them, and decide how you want to begin to change and recreate some of these stories so you can create an empowering future for yourself. Like Pat said, your stories are in your control in the way that you tell them. So the first story that we're going to look at this week is we're going to look at getting clear on the story of your past. Now, as we look at the story of your past, you want to begin to ask yourself, what are the stories you tell yourself, and what are the stories you tell about other people when it comes to your past? Now, as we begin to look at our past, one of the things you'll understand as we go through all the Action After items today is that first and foremost, your past does not define your future unless you give it that permission, right? Whatever's gone on in the past doesn't have to dictate what your future story looks like if you don't give it permission to do that. But as we look at the past, one thing I want you to begin to understand as we look at your past story, and as you begin to ask yourself, well, what is the story I tell myself about my past, is the way that our human brain works is we do these 3 things as we go throughout our life, and it's called distort, delete, and generalize. And basically what it means is that as you've gone through however many years of life you have on this planet, you tend to delete some things. You tend to kind of distort some things, right? Kind of forget about them. You tend to generalize some things. And so what we want to begin to look at is, well, what are the things in your past that you deleted that maybe you need to remember about who you are? Maybe you go through your life and you say, yeah, I'm someone that's always been X, Y, Z, and it's not really a positive thing. And maybe that's some of the story you tell yourself about your past. But if we really look at your past, maybe you deleted some of the amazing things that you did in your life. Maybe you started to sort of generalize or distort some of the bad things that you did. And maybe they were bad, but maybe you distorted them and made them really bad, right? And that's what you defined your past as. So what we want to do is we want to ask ourselves, what are some of the things you can remember in your past that were amazing that you did? What were some of the things in your past that you were proud of, that were beautiful, that were incredible, loving, whatever moments they were? And what if you began to let that define the story of your past? Rather than saying X, Y, Z happened to me, you go, you know what? I'm someone that in my past, like Pat said, did some things that were empowering, right? You want to take your past story and you want to make it something that empowers you rather than something that we could just say victimizes you, right? We want to turn that story in your past into something good. So remember the good things you did in your past, the amazing things you did, the things that inspired yourself, the things that made yourself proud, and allow that to be a new guiding story throughout your life. Not the bad story of your past, but what are a few things you can find in your past that really could empower you and make that your new story of your past? That's going to be story number 1. Now, the second story that we want to get clear on is the story of your present life, right? We want to get clear on what is the story of your life today. And as you look at this story of your present life, I'm going to ask you to take a moment on today's Action After, and I'm going to ask you to take a moment to get a little raw, a little real, a little honest with yourself and say, what is the story of my life truly? So, something we talk about maybe not enough is this idea of brutal honesty. Right? Brutal honesty, of being honest with ourselves and saying, what's really going on in my life? Am I really happy? Am I not? And being honest with ourselves and owning that story. Now, the next thing you want to begin to look at as you own your story is truly, and this is something that can be so powerful, is you want to begin to share that story, right? But one of the things I love that Pat was talking about is he talks about, it's not that we need these crazy, unbelievable, insane stories to share to be something amazing, but it's these not extraordinary, but normal stories, these ordinary stories that really can be beautiful things that can transform our lives and people's lives around us. So as you look at the second story, one of the reasons you want to share it is because maybe you go, you know what, if I'm honest, raw, and real, I'm doing this thing and I'm not really that stoked on it. I'm not really that happy on it, right? I'm a little drained. I'm not very motivated in my life. And maybe you just begin to share that with some other people. You go, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be raw. I'm going to be real with people, and I'm going to share it. And I want you to try that for the next 24 to 48 hours. Just be honest and tell your real story and be raw and real. And I think you'll start to notice that as you're honest and you're vulnerable and you're real with some people may go, oh, I have someone I know that could help you with that. Or what if you tried this thing? Someone once told me it's better to have 10 people help solve one problem than it is to have one person try to solve 10 problems. So if you own the story of what's going on in your life today and you begin to share that story, there's a good chance you're going to have some people that come to you that say, hey, let me help you. Let me support you, whatever it is, right? But you want to own it. You want to be honest with it. And then we move on to the third story. And the third story is that you want to get clear on the story of your future. All right. This is the story that you entirely get to create. This isn't the story we go, I'm going to distort, delete, and generalize things and paint the picture of what I want it to be. This is where you say, okay, my future is not here yet, and I get to create this. Right? I was just listening to a buddy the other day, and he said, rather than trying to find your direction, why don't you create your direction? I think it's such a great point. It's like, what do you want to create for your future story? And let's start to look at that. Right? How do you want your life to be? What do you want the story of your life to be? And Pat talked about this so beautifully in his journey as well. As he goes, every phase of our life is seasons. Right? What he was doing in his 20s is different than what he was supposed to do in his 30s. And what he was doing in his 30s was different than what he was supposed to do in his 40s. So every season of our life is a little bit different. So you want to ask yourself, what's the season of this next chapter of your life supposed to look like? What do you want it to look like? And if I give you one cherry on top that I'd love for those of you that really do want to take some extra action on today's Action After, is as you begin to create this story for your future, I want to give you a nugget, and it's something I learned from one of my mentors, Bob Proctor. And for those of you that are familiar with him, he's was a great human. And if you're not familiar with him, go check him out. RIP, Bob Proctor passed away just a few weeks ago now. And he was one of my first mentors that I ever had in the personal development world. And really, he changed my life and taught me some unbelievable things. And to honor his life, I want to give you one last nugget that you can use to create your future story. And once you get clear on that future story, you go write it out, you get an idea of this is what I want my life to look like. What I want you to do is I want you to ask yourself, what's one big goal, one big thing that you want to achieve in this next season of your life? What is one thing? It could be big, could be small. I'll let you choose that. But what's one thing you want to achieve in the next season of your life? I want you to make it specific. I want you to make it clear. Right? Don't go, in the next phase, I want to make more money because I could send you $1 and you'd message me back and go, Stu, WTF, that's not what I wanted, but you would have got more money if you get what I'm saying. So we want to be specific here, right? Be as specific as you can. And what I want you to do is I want you to write that on a card. All right? You could get a sticky note. You could get a index card. You could get a piece of paper, whatever it is. But I want you to write that goal on a piece of paper. I want you to put it in your pocket. If you need to, you could laminate it. If you want to do it the cheaper way, just take some tape and put tape over it so it like kind of laminates it, but in a cheaper way. All right. But what I want you to do is put that piece of paper in your pocket, and every single day in the morning, look in the mirror and read that goal out to yourself out loud. And then before you go to bed at night, do the same exact thing. Look in the mirror and read that goal out to yourself out loud. Now, when you first do this, you may go, there's no way that could happen. Nah. And you may do, that's not possible. You may do some of those things, but what you are starting to do throughout this process is you do it day in and day out. And again, I'm not speaking to everybody listening here today. I'm speaking to a few select individuals that say, I want to go and take my life to the next level. But as you begin to do this every single day, you begin to rewire your unconscious brain, and that begins to shift everything in your life. All right. When you write it, I'm going to encourage you to write it this way. Start it by saying, I am so happy and grateful now that, fill in the blank with that specific goal that you want to achieve. I am so happy and grateful now that, fill in the blank. Read it to yourself once in the morning in front of the mirror, once at night in front of the mirror before you go to bed, and do this over and over and over. And I promise you, my friends, you are going to start to watch things literally change and shift in your life because you are creating a new story for your future. All right, so that's going to be the action after for this week, my friends. Again, we are getting clear on your 3 stories. Number 1, get clear on the story of your past. Make it an empowering one if it wasn't already. Number 2, get clear on the story of your present day and start to share that story. And then number 3, and most importantly, begin to create the story for your future. For those of you that want to go to the next level, write it on a card, put it in your pocket, read it to yourself out loud every single day for 2 times a day until it becomes real. And that's going to be the action after. All right. So other than that, everybody have a phenomenal rest of your day. If you enjoyed this episode, one thing I will ask is please, please, please go to the iTunes store, leave us a review, leave us a rating. Just go in there and comment. What was one thing you got from today's episode? Say, I loved it when this point was made. I loved it when that thing was said. I loved it when X, Y, Z. And just leave a rating there. We'd be extremely, extremely grateful. All right, if you're listening on Spotify, you can now leave us a rating there as well. And this is how we get this podcast in front of more people, help more people truly live lives that are happy, that they're passionate about, they're fulfilled about, and truly enjoying. So if you would do that for us, we'd be extraordinarily grateful. And other than that, my friends, I will talk to you on the podcast next week. Take care, everybody.